So we're here right now to talk with Trent and Ratan and what they created with venues. So Trent, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Trent Tully. I founded Venu in January 2022. Um, yeah, just graduated from Boston College this year, working as a marketing associate at a marketing agency in Boston.
Awesome. Ratan, how about yourself?
Ye- Yeah, so I met Trent in January of this year, and we've been working on Venue by creating the app. Uh, we've come so far as to creating a beta model and like having a couple of alpha users test it out, and we're really excited about our partnership with Metaspex.
Cool.
So Trent, tell me about Venue and what made you decide to create the company and what was your vision behind the product?
So Venue is a platform in which you can find, make, and share social plans. So anywhere you are in the world, you can see what venues have posted around you, things that are going on, whether it be promos or deals or just private events that your friends want to get together. So we wanted to streamline the entire process of having to text everybody you know to find the best plan and put all those plans and events in one place. Reason Venue started is because I went to college during COVID. So things for me were really, really tough in terms of just trying to get out and about when there were so many limits and kind of limitations on what we could do. And we realized that there was really no way to find out about what was going on. So for me, it was just kind of researching over the next few months and be like, okay, like, is there a platform in which you can kind of do this on? And we realized that, the majority of these companies that try to deliver something similar are all ticketed events as opposed to being able to create your own events, creating your own network, and kind of just really doing what social media was meant to do, and that is bring people together. So for us, it was just, and for me specifically, it was just kind of like a personal anecdote that came to the creation of it. And then since then, we kind of just been on the ground running.
Awesome. Very nice. So Ratan, yeah, tell me about your background and who you are.
So I'm currently a master's student enrolled at BU. And the main thing that I work on at Venue is the front end. So we basically have created an app where we work out different scenarios for users to basically create events, view different venues in and around their area, and basically try and grow their social network, like Trent mentioned, and see what plans are going out and what events are happening in and around their area.
Working with Venue and working on Venue, what did Metaspex do and how did it help you achieve what you're trying to do, Trent?
So for us, Metaspex was kind of needle in a haystack. They delivered our entire backend. We kept the GUI, which is the user interface, completely on our side. And Ratan was 100% in charge of that. And, they operate on a Linux in Amazon Web Services, and we use Couchbase as our database and Nginx as a web server. So what Metaspex does is it delivers the module necessary for backends to run. So for us, it was just kind of keeping up with Vincent, who was our main contact at the company, and continuing to ask him for requests or kind of just checking on the status of whatever our backend may be at the time. And it was a super quick process.
Ratan, how's your experience working with Vincent and Metaspex and the Metaspex platform as you were working on the front end and working within the Metaspex framework?
Yeah, so it's mainly been like catching up with how fast Metaspex is. We're able to develop a lot of backend APIs and microservices within a very short cycle. So it usually is like a very standard set of code that is generated from their end, where you get the authentications, you get the different kind of applications that is specified to Venue, and it's my job to basically cover as much of the APIs to recreate the scenarios that we need for Venue.
And Trent, with getting introduced to Vincent and learning about what Metaspex could do, how did you see that as a value to what we could bring or what Metaspex could bring to you as a platform?
I think for me initially, it was kind of the undertaking of having to install an entire backend when I never really had any tech experience. I was more of on the creative side and on the business side as a whole, as opposed to just tech as a whole. So for me, it was just what drew us was, you know, the speed that they would promise it at, just kind of the longevity of the service and the ability to scale it so quickly was just essential for us. And now we're kind of getting to the point where that's an essential thing, is for us to get as many users as possible, and knowing the back end is reliable is something that's huge for us.
Ratan, with Metaspex, how is identity and access management handled?
So Metaspex provides us IAMs, which basically give us all the user details that are required for all the 200 services offered by Metaspex. These services vary from, like, getting geolocation and other essential features that are needed for Venue as a application.
Excellent. And from the technical magnitude of the application, from what you've seen in the past and what you've worked on in the past, how many HTTP or services does Venue in the backend offer at the moment?
It's about 60 HTTP REST JSON services, which handle different business logic. We are gradually implementing the GUI to cover all these HTTP REST APIs. Some of them are very complex, such as the map and the geolocation that I previously mentioned. It basically requires very sophisticated algorithms to help us calculate where the user is and get more specific information.
So Metaspex is based on ontologies, and as an advanced way of describing data models. Ratan, can you tell us just how many types are specific to the Venue ontology?
Yeah, so we're talking a little more than 30 types of different ontologies that are used for creating the entity relationship model for the Venue backend. On top of this, we inherit a lot of the already ready-made available ontologies from Metaspex that provide us the basic features, such as the login ones and also the geolocation, etc. So it covers almost all functionalities within these ontologies that I mentioned.
Trent, Metaspex, offers a very fast way of creating backends. And, when you started the process and having talked to, other people that could potentially build this for you, you know, give us a sense on how long it took Metaspex to deliver the custom backend, and, based and how is that compared to other people that you potentially talked to deliver this?
So for us, one thing that really drew us to Metaspecs was the rapidness of how they could achieve goals so quickly. So I'd say overall, our backend took about 2 weeks, maybe a couple days more, just fixing out some bugs. It started with a meeting with the whole Metaspecs team, and we were just kind of answered and asked very specific questions about our company and our business logic and the things that come with the app as a whole and with the company as a whole. So any iterations that we had would be done within the day. It was never something that we had to wait for. And, Vincent especially was super responsive to any questions that we had. So he was really, really helpful throughout the process. And I know Ratan can definitely vouch for that as well. He's been a huge help, and the speed that everything is coming at, it's almost as if we can't keep up with it, but we're doing a good job so far.
And based on who you talked to before, and kind of the process of going through scoping and planning for a product as complex as this, how much specification or specs did you produce prior to meeting with Vincent and the team?
To be honest, I think Metaspecs writes the entire specification. So for us, there was really nothing we had to do besides meet with them and kind of answer a set of very specific questions in regards to our company.
Ratan, on that note, were you surprised that that this process, this was the process, and that it worked as it did?
Yeah, my prior experience in working in the IT field showed me that usually it's like, hand in hand, the front end team working with the back end team. But working with Metaspecs opened a complete different dimension where the whole backend is generated within a couple of days. And it's basically me catching up with all the backend APIs that are provided. So it's really a, game changer as far as what I have seen so far.
Nice. And from the Metaspecs team, how many people did you work with?
Yeah, from the tech side, it's just been Vincent. It's been me and Vincent working, so just one person. But on the general level, like all together, it's the whole team, the Metaspex team that have collaborated with us in understanding what our idea is, just to get the specification in, and from there, Vincent takes over. So it's basically one guy doing all the coding for us.
And was that surprising to the two of you that one person could produce this at the scale and speed that they did?
Yeah, from my prior industry experience, it takes quite a whole team to produce the bunch of APIs that we require. For the amount of time, probably a lot more people would be working on this APIs, but it's just one person writing a code and generating the whole backend in a couple of days, which is amazing.
And from a a user interface and experience standpoint and front end development, um, does that flip the way that you think products can be created moving forward?
Yeah, so it helps us focus on more of the user experience of the app, which is a key functionality because it's basically how the user feels using the app, and less focus on getting the business logic in, which is covered by Metaspecs. So the company as a whole can focus on what is important to it, like getting the GUI and getting the user experience nailed down to attract more customers. Whereas the main backend is taken care by Metaspecs. So it's one less headache for us to look into.
And from a bug standpoint, obviously building complex backends, there's the bugs that come up all the time. Did you face any challenges with the back end and having to have Vincent fix bugs or bugs that were created by using Metaspecs?
Yeah, with usually with any such large code bases, you expect the bugs to be a lot, but I was surprised to see it was just a handful. And the response time from the Metaspecs team was amazing. That Vincent used to take care of most of the bugs within a couple of hours. Most of our issues we faced were with respect to DevOps. So that was completely like, unrelated. So once we were able to have all the environment set up, Metaspecs was very stable and we were able to, handle a large load of people, large number of traffic coming into the application with ease.
Very nice. Trent, as you've thought about the product and done strategy and done user interviews, and heard feedback from users and received that, were there business logic modifications that you were looking for, and how were those handled as you were talking with Vincent?
Definitely handled extremely timely. More often than not, it would just be, Ratan, Vincent, and I would hop on a Zoom call for it could be 30 minutes, it could be 2 hours, but anything that we kind of had questions about, Vincent would immediately install, and then we'd get a message that was the back end is up and running within the hour or within the next few hours. So it was kind of just any questions we had or any services that we required, he immediately would take care of it. And it was great.
Ratan, what was your setup to develop the GUI, and how did that work?
So we are a very small startup at this stage. So in a very early stage, since our funds are limited, so we're working on a small Windows laptop where I created a virtual machine with a Linux system to run the Metaspecs backend. The system that I use has bare minimum specifications. So Metaspecs able to adapt to such a system is like uh, groundbreaking because we didn't need a lot of hardware to develop our GUI. It made it more easier to run Metaspecs from anywhere, as well as like deployment on the cloud, and test the GUI out and run different functionalities.
And how was the response time when you were trying the GUI and playing around with it and adding features and testing things?
Yeah, it's been very like super fast. Yeah, even with the alpha testing, even though we had a lot of traffic coming in, we never had any feedback where there was some mentioning of, laid back response or any of those issues. It was so fast that it was a single instance able to handle a large amount of traffic coming in, almost like 100 to 200 requests coming in at a point of time. So that's been really amazing, and all the service calls are within milliseconds, like that. Yeah.
Now that the backend is running with AWS, what's your setup and how does it feel from the GUI side? Are there network lags or are there any challenges there?
So we are running the backend on AWS EC2 instance, which basically has 4 core 32 GB RAM. This is the specification that we require for Couchbase to operate along with Metaspex, and it's been really smooth. We haven't faced any problems as such. We plan on scaling it up by using load balancers and implementing multiple instances of the same sort. But at this stage, we have one instance, that's the 4 core 32 GB RAM EC2 instance. Using a Linux terminal, we are able to run the backend and cater to all the alpha testers that we have right now without any network lag.
And from Ratan, from the Metaspex specification code for Venu, what does it look like? What are you seeing?
Yeah, Metaspex delivers every backend binary with its associated source code. It looks like a specification, but it's very low level stuff. No memory handling, no trace of SQL database interaction, no JSON or HTTP related code anywhere. It's surprisingly small. It's a natural language. It's concise and precise on the specification. We haven't had any training as such, because it's been so easy to understand by any normal person who just looks at the specification that's provided by Metaspex. For the GUI, whatever requests I need, I usually use the JSON payload to make the service call and then receive a JSON payload as a response from the backend to do whatever the business requires for the front end specification.
So Trent, Metaspex says that they have disruptive technology and they can do very very complex backends in a very fast amount of time that are scalable and secure. Um, you know, do you agree with kind of what they've been able to produce so far?
Yeah, most definitely. And I think one thing that's been really impressive has just been the amount of features that are immediately installed that we almost catch up on and kind of have to work our GUI into that. So for us, it's just been like the performance has been consistent, the communication with Vincent has been consistent, and the technology as a whole has been consistent. From any team that I interviewed prior to kind of coming onto the Venu team, everyone was just kind of coming in immediately with you, okay, you need this amount of money, you need this amount of time. And for us and them, it was just kind of we got along, they loved the idea, and then 2 weeks later we had a back end up and running. So it was like very just out of the blue, and it just very much worked out for us, and it's kind of been our diamond in the rough thus far.
And do you think moving forward, based on the question I asked earlier around, adding features, functionality, or what you're trying to do with it, as the product evolves, do you see any challenges with that?
I think for me, like the only challenge that we faced was just kind of getting everybody together at all times, like because obviously everyone's super busy, and with roles or being a student in that sense, it was just kind of like, okay, like the 30 minutes we have, can we make it work? And then we do. And that's kind of what's been keeping us going throughout this entire process, is even if we only have 30 minutes, we can progress the app and kind of let it evolve naturally. And with the amount of other things that we want to get involved with our app, which obviously I won't disclose on here, but the openness and kind of the innovation that comes with that from not only Metaspex, but specifically Vincent, has just kind of given us the confidence to be able to scale this immediately and very rapidly. So it's been, yeah, it's great.
Ratan, do you have any concerns or any ideas about evolving the product and how Metaspex can help you, move this forward?
When it comes to Venue in specific, we've been looking at different options of implementing features along the way, which I think Metaspex is planning on covering, such as questionnaires and trying to get feedback from customers. So the latest release of Metaspex is trying to cover all bases that would be required from any a startup company to try and grow, get feedback, as well as integrate their application smoothly with the already available features of Metaspex. So the future looks bright for both Venue and Metaspex.
Trent, in one word or just a few sentences, how would you describe Metaspex, as you see it?
Efficient, definitely efficient. I think for us, it's an efficient process. The people who work there are efficient and they're kind of just trying to make the best version of whatever they can as quick as they can. And that's helped us kind of be able to continuously evolve our business model and kind of the iterations that come with that. So definitely efficient.
Ratan, how about you?
It's really fast as far as whatever I've seen. Uh, it's a lot of catch-up work for any front-end guys who are trying to develop using Metaspex as their backend. So it's game-changing and really, interesting to see such tech being developed. And we've been a part of this, so it's really amazing.
Awesome. Well, we're excited to see Venue as it progresses, and thank you very much for the time and the feedback for for what Metaspecs has done with you and Venue.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.